I only have 100 days to tame every dino on Aberration and beat Alpha Rockwell. The rules are simple. I need to tame one of every creature, but they have to stay alive. I can't hide them in a cryopod for 100 days. With these rules established, I started day 1, spawning in the only place where you can survive, the Fertile Lake. Don't come for me, I died 6 times in Portal 1 without hitting a tree or picking up a stone. Day 1 started like any other 100 days, by taming 2 Carnos. I also managed to get a few more basic tames like this Dodo and this Parasaur. They were all terrible. First we got some crystals for a new spyglass, and then we needed a bola to tame this Parasaur. He got a friendly reminder of early game arc taming. After taming this Parasaur, we decided that we would look out at this pack of raptors, and against my better judgment, I actually decided not to go towards them. We then made the engineer suit with the new bobstall tails, and I fed my new Carnos. Later that day, I got attacked by this phantom dire bear that was stuck in a rock. It scared the hell out of me. We then tamed this baby Ovis, and this stupid Dodo. I went back to base and made a campfire and a Parasaur saddle so I could test out my new Parasaur.
That's okay. Yeah.
I then got jumped by this raptor, and luckily I am terrible with bolas, but the raptor was stronger. As I ran back to my base, not because I'm a coward or anything, I found this bolt dog that wasn't a good level, but it was something I could tame right now. Day 2 I figured out how to add a screen counter, but see this number? There isn't 62 things to tame, there's actually 50. So we're just going to pretend this says 50. After removing the Doedicurus from this map, I stole its baby. Yeah, no way to sugarcoat that one. Anyway, you're probably wondering why the counter is only at 2. Well, that's because in the time it took me to start my recording, a dire bear killed all of my tames. Don't worry, there's a lot more of that for you to see.
That's funny, so I'm taking that.
So the bear came back, and now we only have the Doedicurus left.
Campfire?
With my confidence at an all-time low, I thought I would do some relaxing base building. I was then promptly killed by the bear I was trying to avoid by standing in the exact same spot he killed me in previously. After that, I took my frustrations out on this Muschops. It was then that I found this Doedicurus and realized I had only lost most of my tames, not all of them. This pretty much summed up how I was feeling at this point and concludes day 2. Day 3, I made a bed. Later on day 3, I bowled this raptor. However, it promptly killed me.
Of course, the second I knocked it out.
I then came back and bowled it again, where it went much better, and I managed to get my stuff back and tame this raptor. I also decided that this was the best place to build my first base. As you can see, I'm an architect. Days 4, 5, 6, and 7 have been lost in my computer, but I can assure you that all that happened was me dying to this thing a couple more times and a couple small tames I can't even remember. On day 8, all I did was tame this Ravager, and it went pretty smoothly. On day 9, I got jumped by this Ravager, but luckily we were able to fight it off, only losing a few tames within the process. The Lycosaurus was a tremendous loss. Not really, but it's going to be quite a long time before we're able to tame one of those again. I then set my sights on tracking down the Ravager that killed me, and I tried to tame it with trank arrows, but it promptly ran away, and it then attacked me again. Don't worry, he'll be back for more in a few minutes. Nope, just kidding, this time it's a raptor. The raptor ran into my base, but luckily with all of my new teams, I was able to fend him off pretty easily. You know, except for the part where I almost died to the raptor, but it's okay, I'm a coward and I ran away. Right after the raptor attack, I saw this iguanodon that happened to be by my base, so I tamed that one and then we got on our way. Day 9, I started working towards a fabricator and got a plant species Z seed. Day 10, I started spino hunting, but I'm only looking for a high level since it's only day 10. I decided not to try my luck with these Ravagers and instead headed for the first Aberration Cave. I stayed to the outside, and Ark's new pathfinding was no challenge for me as I guided all these creatures off the cliff. I'm just kidding, they're still way smarter than I am. The cave was no problem though, so we ended up getting the artifact without much of a problem. I thought it was a good idea to tame this 140 Ravengers with a bunch of Stegos around. Turns out it was a terrible idea. Late day 10, I made it back with no issues until I ran into a Ravager and jumped off a cliff. After I collected my things, I got back and tamed this 135 Ravager that was just chilling by the river. After taming the 135 Ravager on the run home, I was ambushed by this big ugly crocodile. After making it back, my new Ravager was very close to being dead. Day 12 we lost our beloved turtle, who I definitely didn't forget about, but regardless, back down to 8 teams. Bulldog breeding. I spent the rest of day 12 farming wood, fiber, and thatch for more dino gates. Day 13 I finished setting up all the wooden gateways, and later in the day I put up all the doors. So hopefully this will be a little more secure. Spoiler alert, it's not going to be. Anyway, I spent the rest of day 13 getting all my creatures inside the gates. Day 14 I did practically nothing, but I did kill a few trilobites. Day 15 I was starting to really need something for metal gathering, so jumping into the blue zone and looking for an Anki seemed like the best idea. But there was literally nothing down there. So I set my sights back on the fabricator dream. Oil crystal, I think we can make that, no? No? By day 30. Feeling ambitious. Oh, you know what? I will take the cliff plat because I was gonna... A blue drop gave me a cliff platform, which gave me a big idea for a base. This green drop makes 0 sense, and I'm totally here for it. Oh my god! Day 16, I made it back to the waterfall I jumped off of, and I thought that this would be a pretty cool place to live. I then put a bed down so I could always spawn here if I needed to. Oh, I'm dead. While building, I promptly fell off my base and called my Ravager down to the blue zone to travel all the way through it and back around. I noticed something attacking me, and luckily it was only a low-level rock drake, so we were able to take that out pretty easily. Still a rock drake on my ass? Okay, you know what? Fuck. Day 17, I found a juvenile horse, so I tamed it. Oh my god. I guess I should mention now that I will try to actually tame everything, but I'm going to allow claiming babies, at least for now. While taming the Diplo, I found this 150 Spino that I couldn't pass on. I decided I would try to tank all the Spino's attacks while peppering it with arrows, and surprisingly, that went really well. Come on. Can you get up here? Is the thing out? Oh my god. As you can tell, I was pretty excited. I then found this crab to kill for meat, but it had a baby for me to steal as well. Day 18, the Spino tamed. Oh my god, okay. The Spino tamed on the morning of day 18, and I know nothing about the stats, but here they are. Okay, nice. 150 Spino. Let's go check its stats. I have no idea if that's good or not. I know that's good though. Day 19, I killed a couple Carcanos for their Palmer and stole another crab baby. But I forgot about this one and it got fed to a level 40 Spino. I spent the rest of day 19 and half of day 20 to get back to my new base. I also had my first run-in with a Gigaraptor. God, I can't wait to tame one of these. Then day 20 we got back to my old base and I took some essential resources and the artifact we'd collected. On the morning of day 21 I arrived back at the new base location and started messing around with the Cosmo that I apparently tamed. I couldn't find the video file for this, but I'm sure it happened or it'll happen again. I also threw my Stego out and started farming berries. This Stego is going to live out the rest of this video in this exact same spot. I then continued working on the new base design. Filling in the floor was, to say the least, a struggle. At this point I needed the Cosmo to build the ceiling because it was getting way too high to reach. For being the terrible builder I am, I don't think this turned out half bad. I need something stronger than hide clothes and I had a ton of chitin, so I made some chitin armor instead. On day 24, I found another plant species Z seed so I could start a farm at the new base. I made a Spino saddle to test the new Spino with, and I was still missing some of the cementing paste for a fabricator, but right now, that was my priority. Messing with the Cosmo later on, I got stuck under my base and I could barely figure out a way to get back up. I also made an AA workbench for some more unique crafting that we'll kind of see later. So on day 24, I finally had enough resources to craft a fabricator. It only took me 24 days. This is not looking good. I knew I needed a plan so I could manage my time better, and believe me, I needed it. So my first goal was I needed a rock drake by day 50. That would leave me the other half of the challenge to breed and tame as much as possible. Later that day, I opened this drop and found a new long neck. As you can see, I wasn't excited at all. Day 25, I decided I needed a new Bulp Dog for more breeding. Why did I breed Bulp Dogs? Well, I actually have no clue, but it happens a lot, so yeah. Then I promptly jumped into the blue zone for round 2 of Anki hunting. I ended up almost dying, but I managed to knock out this 140 Ravager instead. I still can't find a single Anki. I sat here healing for so long that a Nameless turned into a Reaper, so I'm not going to be going down there anymore. Then I forgot that freezing swords were a thing, so I almost died to that as well. I then tamed this dung beetle to start my greenhouse, and then made my first wingsuit so that when I inevitably fall off my base into the blue zone, I just might survive. I started Ravager breeding on day 26. I just wanted the high health and melee on one Ravager, and this one had neither. Eventually I did get one, and this is the ugly little guy. I spent the rest of my day leveling up my new buddy. At this point, I had set my mind on a Spino boss army, so instead of traps, I figured bear traps followed by dino gates would be good enough. Instead of going back for my other Doed, I abandoned it and tamed this new one. I wanted to test out the Spino, and my god, it hits like a truck. I needed to find a decent level male Spino, but all I could find was level 50 and under, so they had to go. I did this the rest of day 27 and all of day 28, but I did find this Paracer just hanging out in this tree.
Oh my god, it's Spider-Man!
On day 29, I was getting really bored with looking for a male Spino, so I decided to tame a higher level Cosmo before I went insane. Because I don't remember when the first Cosmo came, I'll prove I know how to tame it here. On day 30, I was a broken man. No good Spino to be found, and I had made my Twitch chat sit through 3 days of killing low-level Spinos. Mashtozer on Twitch, by the way. Anyway, feeling bad, I decided to raise up a new Ravager and go for my first Rock Drake egg. So with my terrible Cosmo and my Ravager, I set off into the blue zone looking for a Lamprey. Lampreys, if you don't know, stop radiation damage with the same negative effects of a leech, but it doesn't matter because I got a friendly reminder I suck at using the Cosmo. I then met my favorite creature in Ark, the Pyromane, which didn't kill me, but I still hate it. I also forgot to spawn at my bed, so I let this Paracer dance on me. I then spawned at my base and set my sights on Spino hunting off stream so no one died of boredom, except me. This lasted the rest of day 30 until I decided I need to get an Anki to get an Indie Forge. This is going to be a common theme. Meanwhile, the Pyro mains scared the hell out of me. This cool spider showed up, so I killed it, but it was going to take me a painfully long time to figure out how to tame one. I know what you're thinking, pathetic. Because it was taking me so long to find a Spino, I tamed this 135 Megalosaurus using the bear trap I made earlier. That did not work, so I let my Spino take a beating while I knocked it out from above. With a Megalo being tamed, I had a decision to make in the next few days, which dino I wanted to fight Rockwell with. On day 32, I made an egg collector because I needed to start breeding now for the boss fight so I can focus on the other 39 tames I still have to complete. On day 33, with no thinking being done, I decided that Spinos were going to help me put an end to Rockwell for some reason. You'll see what I mean later. I knocked out this Spino, which was really bad, but I just needed to start breeding right away. For day 34 and 35, I made these chitin boots and made a ring of fire to hatch my Spinos with. That's it. Well, I guess I also bred bolt dogs, so I have an endless supply of them to travel into the blue zone and red zone with. Definitely bring them all back with me, don't worry. The next day, it was starting to dawn on me that I hadn't made nearly enough progress, so I made some scuba to tackle the blue zone cave with, and I needed to get an Indie Forge. So the hunt to find an Anki was back on after a quick dino light. While in the blue zone, I came across these red gems, which I'll need for a rock drake saddle, and a few other things later on. This green drop had some okay chitin, but it was better than the garbage I had on, so I put it on. And then finally, after searching for more than 20 days, I finally found an Anki. It was a terrible level, but at this point, I would have taken a level 5. On my way back, I found this Shinehorn, and upon looking at my tame count, I didn't care what level it was. Day 37, I came across this Alpha Carcanos. I'm constantly keeping the alphas in the back of my mind because we need to kill all 3 for Alpha Rockwell. And I got this hat. At the end of my trip to the blue zone, when I got home, my Spino had taken quite the beating, but in the next 15 days, I needed to be healed and ready to get a rock drake gig. In order to do this, I needed to get my Indie Forge going, so I slapped a saddle on my new Anki and set out for some metal. Right after, I tamed this stuck Oviraptor with a Spino egg. On the way to gather some metal, I stopped off at this old eyesore to see if there was anything else useful. There wasn't. I remember in Survival Evolved there was a ton of metal in this service entrance, but it was quite a hike and I still hadn't made a hazmat suit, so I almost died to the floating particles in the air. After eating some of the magic mushrooms the bulldogs like, I made it to the metal. After farming metal for quite a while, I realized my Ravager couldn't carry as much metal as I would like, so I'm going to need to find a new source of metal closer to my base. After the super slow run home, I made it back on the morning of day 39. I then started gathering stone with my Doed to make a ton of forges so I could get enough metal smelted for the Indie Forge. While I was waiting, I climbed up to this drop, which showed me Ark was tired of me refusing to make a water jar. I also made a ton of spark powder to use in the forges. I then remembered that I had tamed a dung beetle earlier, so I figured I would throw that out too. Day 40, I was messing with some zip lines and got stuck under my base. Luckily, I actually remembered my wingsuit, so I managed to save myself. I then promptly fell back down under my base and gave up using climbing picks to get back. Day 41 consisted of me wandering around aimlessly and a metal run. After all of this thinking, I realized that I needed crystal bad, and I could not for the life of me find normal crystal, so I settled for these green gems. On my way back, Wildcard taunted me with more zipline anchors. After filling up my forges again, I did some stone gathering for cementing things. On day 42, I needed some oil from some trilobites, so I introduced myself to the local river population. I also finally made a gas collector because there was a gas vein right beside my base and we needed gas balls for the hazmat gear. And by the morning of day 43, I was already starting to get a bunch of gas balls. With that being set up, I finally had the materials to craft a hazmat suit. But I was getting really close to day 50 and I still felt really underprepared to get a Drake egg. While waiting for the gas balls, I was flying around my base and found metal nodes right across from my base. I didn't realize that even when you have a gas collector, the strong purple gas still hurts you. I then went to get some more crystal and stumbled into this poison mushroom. Instead of coming back later, I ran into it a second time, and because my health was below half, I died to a mushroom on day 43. This isn't looking good. I woke up in my base, collected my body, and got back to work. At this point, we had a couple of eggs that needed hatching. I took the Cosmo for a spin, and I don't know why I'm so confident with the Cosmo, because I suck with it. But I'm going to blame this one on a bug, because every time I open my glider, it goes straight down. Every single time. This time I narrowly escaped death and retreated back to my base. On the way back, I got attacked by a Yiling as I ran through another poison mushroom. This is going to become a common theme, and honestly, I have no clue how I survived this, but somehow I did. And made it back to my base. Confidence at an all-time low, I tamed this 145 bolt dog to make me feel better. Day 44 was pretty successful as I crafted my last piece of hazmat gear, ensuring that I had a wingsuit attached for when I screw something up later. The metal had also finally finished smelting, so I made up a last bit of cementing paste and finally crafted my Indie Forge. I wasn't excited here at all. I couldn't find a good place to put it, so I decided another cliff platform would be a great place to put it. It took me the rest of the day to make it, but once I placed it, I thought it would look pretty good. I thought it was worth it. There was probably a better way to use my time, but oh well. On day 45, instead of placing my forge, I decided to plunge into the red zone and take on the task of getting my first rock drake egg. At this point, I'm 45 days in, and I feel like I really hadn't made that much progress, but a drake egg could help me traverse the map way faster and hunt down the remaining 36 tames. When I got to the rock drake trench, luckily I found an egg on the left hand side, and all I needed to do now was reach the ground and throw out one of the Spinos. I had been mutating my Spinos for a while now. To my surprise, only one drake followed me, and despite forgetting a light pet, I easily killed the Nameless. When I had the bright idea to climb the spine with the Cosmo, I quickly realized that that wasn't going to work, so I threw out my Spino and started the slow trek back to my base through the red and blue zone. The only notable thing was finding this C4, which won't be used for another 50 days. I arrived back at my base on day 47 with my goal of getting a rock drake by day 50 was complete. The egg was only level 70, but for a first egg, we'll take it. I also finally placed the forge on day 47. I also made a generator. I made air cons too, but I massively underestimated how many of these things I'm going to need to hatch this egg. Using zip lines, I made a bridge to the new metal spot I found and started farming up more metal. On day 48, I headed to the river to get a few more silica pearls so I can make more electronics. I needed way more than this, but I do not know that in this clip. The next day, on my way back to the base, Wildcard told me I smelled like shit. Getting back to my base, I promptly fell off my base again and had to climb my way back up. No matter how many times I fall down here, I will never learn. Oh, I then went to my new metal platform and made a bridge to this tree, thinking I could use it to get up and down into the blue zone. It worked really well to get into the blue zone, but not so much when I needed to get out. Late on day 49, I went back to the crystal patch with the poison mushrooms and almost killed myself again trying to get more crystal. While I continued to craft the air cons on day 49, I may have forgotten to feed one of the new bolt dogs, but it's fine. There'll be lots more of them. After finally crafting 20 air conditioners, I was finally able to start incubating the new rock drake egg. My goal of getting a rock drake by day 50 was now finally complete, and I finally felt like I might be on track to beat this challenge. I grabbed my nameless venom so this guy wouldn't starve like that other bolt dog did. I spent the next little while putting up lights and raising a new rock drake. I also made sure to make a rock drake saddle thanks to the red gems we got earlier. Once the rock drake was all grown up, I obviously had to take it for a spin. I made some shocking trank darts thanks to my stego being placed on top of those poison mushrooms. Day 51, I flew down to the blue zone to tame this angler after getting jumped by this pyramid. I'm gonna need the angler to get silica pearls from my Spino saddles. To end day 51, I decided to go for a higher level rock drake, especially now that they're breedable. With a tamed drake, this is so easy. We got a 115 egg with no problem, and on my way back, I found this insane drop. And then I hatched the new egg. I got twins. Okay, it's time for a confession. Ark had an update in between sessions here, and my entire disk corrupted, which means I lost literally everything on my hard drive. So, I used creative to get most of my stuff back, and most of the creatures, but the creatures are all a lower level than the ones I had tamed. So yeah, anyway, back to the challenge. To make myself feel better, I named the rock drakes Drake and Josh. If you know, you know.
It's gonna take some time to realize.
At this point, I didn't realize that traits were specific to each species, which looking back, of course they are. Here's this drop. While wasting time, I got a wake-up call from a Ravager to get back on task. Just the boost I needed, so I headed to the fertile lake to collect some more silica pearls. At this point, on day 53, I was way behind on completing the Blue Zone Cave, but I was having the same problem finding a berry that I had finding an Anki earlier. Worried I was falling too far behind, I made an AA mortar and pedestal to boost my cementing paste production, and for the next 2 days, I farmed a bunch of stone and began construction on my new greenhouse. I also found more crazy flak in this drop. On day 57, I imprisoned my dung beetle and it was full of shit. Day 57, I forgot to hit record, but I got this out of a drop. Day 57, I forgot to hit record, but I got this out of a drop. I then stole a bunch of drake eggs back when I thought I was going to use traits. Day 58, I finally decided to venture into the surface, and because days ending in 7, 8, and 9 are the only days I can be up here, I have a limited time left. On my first drop, this happened. So to make myself feel better about losing my drake, I hatched some Spino eggs and a brand new drake, known as Drake 2. I know, super creative. And this is where I found out that traits were species specific, because of course. Taming things like the Arthro, Basilisk, and Titanoboa were going to require gilly and bug repellent, so I made sure to start making some on day 59. At the end of day 59, these Spinos didn't have the stats I wanted. Plant species Z plant was doing well, and after a few more stun grenades, I'll be ready to tame the Yeeling. Knowing I was probably never going to use these low-level drake eggs, I decided to tackle two of the most annoying tames, the Titanoboa and the Basilisk, with them. After messing with the Basilisk for the majority of day 61, I finally got one tamed, and I tamed up and this Parasaur. When I got back to base on day 62, I finally had almost enough stun grenades to tame a Yeeling. I plan to miss a lot. I promise that I tame this, but for the life of me, I cannot find the footage for it. In the meantime, I made up some bug spray to tame the Arthropleura. On day 63, I checked if I was recording. The tame counter is only at 23 because I recounted all my tames. I also placed a tree tap on day 63. My recording corrupted here, but I'm pretty sure this was a Carno and a Raptor tame. Now it was time to tame a Frog and a Starko. I also remember that I had to tame an Electrophorus. This one I found was stuck in a rock and I got extremely lucky. My tree tap was finally working, so I grabbed some to make my sweet veggie cakes for an Ovis and Gary the snail. On day 64, I shifted my focus to taming a Gigantoraptor, but this would prove much harder than I thought it was going to be, especially with this one being broken. My second attempt started off better, but then the mom fell off the cliff and the tame was broken again. I took out my frustrations by knocking out and taming this turtle by my base. Still having no luck with a Gigantoraptor tame, I went after this scorpion. I started to get mad at the taming of the Gigantoraptors and punched my second baby of the challenge. Then this happened. It then took me until day 66 to tame a Gigantoraptor, but at least it's over. Next was the Yiling. This one took a very long time as, well, I'd only managed to knock it out on my last stun grenade. Lucky me. I spent the rest of day 67s hatching more Spino eggs. While waiting for eggs to hatch, I set out to make an industrial cooker for veggie cakes, but more importantly, med brews. While running over to get more metal, I fell into the blue zone, and, well, it ended like this. So, I grabbed my rock drake egg and grabbed my stuff before regrouping at my base. On day 68, I made it to the red surface entrance, but I thought the red meant that it was fire, so it took me way too long to enter the surface. But once I did get there, I got some pretty okay loot, except these flak pants, which were really good. Late on day 68, I made it back from the surface and realized I still need to do a lot of taming very fast. After this realization, I then did some more rock drake breeding. I decided to test their survival instincts, so I left them in the blue zone. They didn't do too well. But this cave is going to go well. I need to take down the second aberration cave because at this point I should have done this like 20 days ago. I really enjoy this cave, but my inability to find a berry was really hurting me here as the rock drake is kind of big for this cave. But after I did a bit of struggling, we finally got the artifact of the shadows. Oh, and my new sword was great, by the way. By the time I got out of the cave and was done looking for loot drops, I couldn't find even a single loot drop, by the way. It was now day 71. At this point, I made an upgrade station because if I want to complete this challenge, I can't be spending half of the remaining time hunting for drops. It's fine, I still had to craft everything and use a bunch of resources. I also wanted to try out the ender chest, the linked storage box, for a new way to farm metal. The Spino breeding situation was starting to get crammed, so I needed to find a better way to store them in the next few days. Here's some more bulb dog breeding. Day 71 also marked the day for me to finally craft that industrial cooker, which means I could now get sweet veggie cakes and tame up a sheep and a snail. I then got this cliff platform from a blue drop and made an attempt to fix my Spino problem, after testing the survival skills of some more baby Spinos. On day 72, I was still trying to tame the thorax spider. I was under the impression that you needed to make an iridescent shield to tame them, and I couldn't get anything but chitin from these bugs. So I tamed this snail instead that was nearby. Then at my base, I tamed this low-level Ovis. There was also a Paracer on my base, so I decided to tame that as well. The good luck with the drops was also continuing when I found this brand new pick. The big monkey was next on my list, so he was given berries through the wrong end. Somewhere between day 73 and me forgetting to hit the record button, I tamed a bee and turned it into a beehive. After coming to grips with the reality that I couldn't complete the challenge without the upgrade station, I got to work on better gear. I also tamed another turtle because I don't know what happened to the other one. There was also this weird glowing parasaur, so I had to tame that too. You'll be happy to hear that one of the drakes did survive my test, so I decided to help him out in the blue zone. This Dimetrodon attacked me and I respected it, so I decided to tame it. This purple drop gave me an even better pick. I then decided to run into the river and tamed this trilobite, as I needed one fish basket tame for this challenge. I then followed this up by knocking out a trike and feeding a roll rat some honey. I then tamed this moss chops, diplo, and this dire bear. Then this baby bear went up and licked its mom's head. I've never felt this bad playing Ark. So I kidnapped the child. And of course I had to name the bear Yogi and the little one Berenstein. I then had to go down to the red zone for a Megalania, and then went Reaper hunting, taming this Perlovia on the way. The first Reaper I found scared the hell out of me, so I ran away and decided to test my luck with the final cave I needed. On a rock drake, this cave is kind of a joke, so I really had no trouble with it. So in no time, on day 77, I had all of the artifacts I was going to need to fight Rockwell. I've been collecting Apex drops throughout my 100 days. I just didn't think you guys want to see all that boring stuff. However, I still desperately needed to find an Alpha Basilisk and an Alpha Reaper. While still in the cave, I found a Featherlight and decided I would tame that here, and almost immediately lost it to a Seeker. I then almost immediately lost it to a Seeker. Then I took a little break to make a link storage box, but on the way back, I fell back into the blue zone. I told you, I'm not going to learn. So I started my trek all the way back around when my favorite creature decided to pay me a little visit. Back when my game files disintegrated, I forgot to place a bed back at my base, so I had no way to spawn there. But eventually I did get back to my base. On my way back, without placing a bed, I died to freezing spores. Yep, again. This time I had no problem getting back to my base, luckily. Then I got new pants. Day 79, I only had 10 tames left, so next was the Aranio, which is a passive tame, by the way. And now it's time to hunt Reapers again, where the Reaper was hunting me because I got scared and ran away. Day 81, more new pants. Meanwhile, I was still hatching my last batch of Spinos while making one of the batches of med brews. That happened. A lot of the last 18 days are resource gathering, so I'll mention what I needed to, but most of it's going to be cut out. You're welcome. Day 82, I almost died to Piranhas on a Pearl run. Some of you will hate this, but I had to use the blueprint station or I never would have completed this challenge. So here's me dying to the freezing spores again. Now we're even. Day 83, I made the link storage box, only to use it a couple of times. These are the final Spinos. I had to use a little bit of Mutate Madness, but don't worry, it won't matter anyway. You'll see later. Oh yeah, and this one is Carter. He finished raising on day 84. Carter's a beast. 85 was another Pearl run, and I put the last upgrade on my Spino saddles. They were unbelievably expensive, so I got to work because most of the time I had left was going to be used to make these saddles. My big gorilla was insane at collecting fiber, and it was still going to take me a long time to get it all. Believe it or not, this was mostly for the new set of flak. After farming fiber for an entire day, I let Carter introduce himself to our neighbors in the river. Day 87, I found myself back on the surface with one goal in mind, the Alpha Reaper. And this time, we had Carter. Immediately, we got jumped by 4 readers, and I have to ask, what the hell is with all of the Reapers? Seriously, it feels like there's hundreds on the surface. But anyway, they were no match for Carter. While fighting my way to the green obelisk, I finally found the Alpha Reaper. Ark tried its best to kill me by dropping an explorer note on me as I started fighting it. This Reaper kept pushing me until I got cornered, which actually ended up helping me, and Carter took it down pretty quickly. And it wouldn't be a hoser video if I didn't get killed by something most players stopped dying to on day 20. I was going to say that I channeled my inner Mike Tyson to beat up this raptor, but that was before his last fight. Yeah, I could have died if I fought like that. While searching for a Lystro, I found an Alpha Basilisk hanging out on top of the portal. The Basilisk actually went down really easy. The last 40-ish days, I've been collecting as much hide as possible, basically doing this around the whole map in preparation for the new Spino saddles. On day 89, I still hadn't tamed a Lystro, so I did that. I found this Pyromane and decided that I would attack it for once because I hate them. Next on the tame list was the Svartaltherium or something like that, and it was really easy. I don't have much to show for day 90 and 91, so I'll show you this Alpha Carcanus attack. Day 92, all I did was raise the last Spinos and put them in cryopods so they would gain experience while I got the rest of the hide, which I also crafted a ton of cementing paste. It was at this point that disaster struck, the manta. Now, I was under the impression that I tamed a manta with raw fish or meat. Turns out I actually needed angler gel, and the only angler I saw I tamed earlier in this video, so this would have to wait. No time to cry, I had to get more pearls for the Spino saddles. I then threw some more terrible Spinos off my base to fend for themselves. On day 95, I found this terrible baryonyx. Right after this, I found more freezing spores, which knocked me out and killed me, which led me to possibly rage quit. Once I finally collected myself, I went back down to my body, and yep, it took me nearly 50 days to figure out the thorax spider was just a passive tame. I also finished this. I then tamed this otter by my base. I also needed a glowtail, so I went back into the green zone cave to find one. Then it was back down to the red zone to tame this dimorph. It's day 97, and next was the Reaper hunting. This time for real. So I did this the worst way possible by just guessing when the Reaper was low enough for it to give me a baby. Yep, it was that stupid. Turns out, not a great plan. So here's another one I killed until I went back to my base and made a magnifying glass. I hit this otter while farming stone for cementing paste, which nearly caused me to die 2 otters 2 days before I'm supposed to fight Alpha Rockwell. I'll be honest, I completely forgot that the Phasalasuchus was on this map when I was freaking out about what else I needed to tame, other than the Manta and the Reaper. But on day 97, after cleaning up all of the Reapers, I finally tamed one, which is much more enjoyable on Aberration, by the way. Finally, it was down to the Manta and the Reaper, and I knew you guys would never forgive me for not taming a Reaper, so I went back to my genius plan. Then I built this trap, which had literally no chance of ever working, but after a whole day of trying, this finally happened. Day 98, the Reaper hatched just in time for me to ditch it and do my last preparations to fight Rockwell. I collected my last resources and upgraded my shotgun, which I was going to need badly. On this day, I finally raised my final rock drake, Bling Bling. Late that day, it was time to make my final descent into the pit of hell that was the radiation zone. Whether I win or fall to Rockwell, this is it. With that said, my final Spinos are ready, which, if you haven't figured out now, my level cap is raised, and yes, they are a super high level, but just wait, it doesn't matter. So, while making a thumbnail for a video, I left ASE running, so while loading the boss fight on ASA, my entire PC crashed, and there's a glitch giving you Gamma Ascension if you close the game in a boss fight. Anyway, without any more blabbing, I'll let past me take it from here, and sorry, I don't know what happened to the sound here, so here's some music. Ooh, alright, here we go. I think I've got everything. I hope I do. Alright, everyone here, attack. Attack? Please? Hello? Why aren't they attacking? Okay, none of them are attacking, so I'm not sure what's going on. What the hell? Why won't they attack? Oh my god, okay, well, this is... Oh my god, can you guys do something? Holy shit, are you kidding me? Carter! My god, I guess Spinos was the wrong call. Why is this so broken? These things are useless. Well, I just noticed my bolt dog's gone, so I'm screwed. Why aren't my shots hitting? They're all just freaking pacifists. Why aren't they hitting them? Come on. Come on. We're so close. No, reload. Come on. Yes! Oh my god. Well, the Spinos were useless. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. I know we just hit 100 subs and it doesn't mean a lot to most people, but to me it really does. It shows you guys actually want to see this. At least 100 of you do. When we hit 1,000, I know it's really far away. I'll do whatever the top comment says, as long as it's legal, feasible, and not insane. See you guys in the next one.